Welcome back, everybody. Hope you're suitably refreshed and had a chance to have a bite to eat. Hopefully, people are coming back on the screen. So, oh, good. I'm glad you're on, Nick. I was worried for a minute. So yeah, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, which is Nick Shipton from MoreIQ, who no doubt will give us another fascinating presentation as he did some while back. And so over to you then, Nick. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Russell. Yeah, so what I'm going to attempt to try to take you through in this session is the work we've been doing with Raven Housing Group over the past sort of 18 months. The overriding theme of the case study is really going to look at operative efficiency. And we'll be looking at some of the high-level metrics that Mike Ryan of Raven is starting to work on with me. We're going to be bringing out a bit more of a detailed case study over the next couple of weeks, but we just wanted to sort of pull out some of the high-level metrics that we've been seeing since we've been live with them, along with what we think of some of the underlying reasons we're seeing these improvements, what they mean for Raven and of course their tenants, and how they're really taking the opportunities those improvements are presenting them, and how they can make advantage of the benefits of these. Just first of all, a little bit of an introduction to MoreIQ for those of you who don't know us. We formed back in June 2021. And I think that picture of me on the previous slide was taken probably just before that. So 4 years of forming your own startup goes to show what can happen to the hair during that time. But as it said there, we're a specialist provider of optimization algorithms and the surrounding solution, which is really important for us. Between the three founders, that's myself, Katie Evans and Gail Sonson, we've got around 50 years of experience in the design, development, implementation and support of optimization and scheduling systems. In fact, Gail, for those of you who don't know, was the original architect and developer of OptiTime, or DRS as it's now known. And that was over 20 years ago. And that time frame is just a little sort of indication of why we formed, really. We wanted to use our knowledge and experience to develop a new algorithm and solution, but within a modern infrastructure that has got the flexibility to really cope with all the complex demands that are being thrown at a modern DLO repair service these days. But make sure as well that was built within a technology and infrastructure that has got the ability to scale, has got excellent performance and resilience, and key as well, that it's future-proof as well, that we can put new features and functionality in very quickly. And that's what a true cloud solution, which is what we are. So we're built in the cloud. We're not just on the cloud. And that's just something that's impossible with some of the legacy technology. And it's especially key with scheduling, where the performance of the algorithm is really, really key in order to get the speed of optimization back, especially within a reactive and real-time service. Okay. So in relation to sort of Raven's case study, that infrastructure, what we've built is one of the underlying reasons we think, for the improvements. It's a modern optimization platform, and key as well with the right algorithm. You will probably notice I don't mention AI as a direct sort of factor in the case study, but it's really intrinsic to what we do at MoreIQ. Gail would say the algorithm itself is AI, and we are developing some tools to utilize AI. An example of this would be travel time, for example. So as most optimization systems, we have a travel matrix that's based on average road speed, but we're actually starting to learn about the travel times that are happening within the solution, and we're starting to harvest that information from our customers so we can adapt the travel time based on geography and based on times of the day, and feed that back directly into the system. Now, you can go out and buy that kind of data, but we're actually building it into the solution so we don't have that additional cost of getting that data from another provider. So again, hopefully then we're providing a better value for money solution as well. But also, we don't want to develop AI just in a bubble with our solution. We work with many partners such as Dave Carr from Propeller, who was on earlier. So we want to work with our partners as well, because we all hold a huge amount of data. So we want to make sure we can leverage that data and that functionality, not just within More IQ, but across the bigger ecosystem. Now, the session isn't just going to be me banging on about the details of why having the right algorithms key. That's for another day. But as I said, the case study, I really want to highlight the benefits you can realise by having that rate optimization. The sector is full of suppliers claiming to have dynamic scheduling, intelligent automated scheduling, and a number of other variants of a theme. We've got large established vendors offering all-in-one works management solutions, including scheduling, a total solution that's rock solid. But optimization is very, very niche. And having access to the IP like we do, the actual algorithm and a knowledge of stochastic and heuristic algorithms is really key. And that's kind of the stuff that underpins the case study and the benefits that Raven is seeing. Along with, hopefully from us, the knowledge of the challenges the sector's having and what we're facing, and the processes that we're trying to support with the technology. And that's really key for us. We don't want people to have to adapt to the technology. It's about us understanding your processes and making sure we can help configure the software to support those processes. Okay, so a little bit of background about what we've been doing with Raven then. So as I said, we've been working very closely with Mike Ryan and his team at Raven. So Raven, obviously they're based in Red Hill. They've got around 7,000 properties, predominantly around the Red Hill area, but sort of in the wider Surrey area, into Sussex and down to the south coast as well. Their DLO's currently got 134 operatives, but that's across responsive repairs, voids, assets, in terms of we're scheduling people doing stock condition surveys, and also their estate management teams as well. So 134 isn't just responsive repairs. So previously, Raven had implemented the Microsoft Dynamics 365 based iProperty Cloud from Tech Labs London. And as part of that original project, they had introduced Microsoft Field Service, which they were utilizing for their scheduling. So, coming back to an earlier point, they were using a form of scheduling and optimization, but possibly not the right one, because they weren't really getting the outcomes they were expecting. So they were using a scheduling solution. Reason I keep making that point as well is when we see some of the statistics, we're building on top of something that was already supposed to be scheduling and optimizing. So they weren't coming just from a sort of a paper-based system. They had a scheduling system in place already. Okay. So as I said, having the right algorithm is really key, and building that operative efficiency with the right scheduling is all really key around that. Okay. So Raven made the decision to replace the field service component with More IQ. They retained the field service mobile element, with the project kicking off in March 2024, and we went live in July 2024. So sort of 3 or 4 months there. That included all of the integration as well between IPC and More IQ. So all of that integration, and that a little nod there as well to where we built in some efficiency. So we go a lot deeper with our integration. So it's not just about job transactions, sending the jobs across for pointing. IPC, for example, controls all of the data and configuration around operatives, including their skills and their working hours and their unavailability, and that automatically synchronizes with more IQ. So we're cutting down on the amount of admin for the back office, making that process more efficient as well, which then, of course, hopefully allows planners more time to focus on the emerging day and some more strategic planning as well, being able to look forward as opposed to just focusing on what's happening under their noses. We also migrated all of the current work in progress as of July last year with the original customer bookings or promises, so we couldn't move those. So the starting point in July was a little bit suboptimal, because obviously we could only really optimize things as we're moving forward as new jobs came in. So if we move on and start looking at some of the actual numbers. So the first one I really want to pull out at a high level is the increase in completed work orders. So they have seen an increase of 26% in completed work orders. Really want to make a distinction there as well in terms of what Mike and the team see as a work order. So a work order for them is the entire repair. That's not just an individual repairs visit. That's everything that's been required to fix the problem. So yes, some of those will be quite simple, one-off repairs where I'm going to fix, I don't know, a dripping tap or something, but it also includes more complex repairs, which we're seeing more and more of in the sector. So by complex repair, it could be, some people call them minor works. It's anything really that could be requiring multiple visits. And indeed, some of those visits could have dependencies between them. So we need to do them in a specific order. Or they could be multi-day visits where we need to split that repair up into, 2 or 3 working days, for example. So, just want to make sure that's what we're basing this on. So it's really, we've always been banging on about, ever since I was at X-Embrace, about completing more jobs a day, and that's where we're going to gain the efficiency. And of course, that's really, really key still, but we've got to look at the wider picture about whether we're actually completing that entire piece of work. So I think that 26%, it sort of relates to around a 40 to 45% increase in actual visits as well for the operatives. Okay. So of course, what we're starting to see there is Raving are really starting to free up capacity. And then it's important to make sure that we use that capacity in the right way to benefit the service and the tenants. Which leads us on to the second number there. So we've noticed the service as a whole has had to cope with an additional increase in demand. So they've seen an increase of 16% demand coming into the service. But with that extra capacity that we've been able to find, we've been able to absorb that into the DLO itself without the need to raise headcount within the DLO. In fact, actually, the license numbers have just tailed off a bit for us. We started with 142 licenses back in July. Now we've only got 134. And also, we haven't increased contractor spend either. So all of that work has been absorbed by the internal DLO itself. So, why do we think more IQ sort of being a part of that efficiency gain? Well, along with obviously providing the key functionality of being able to properly give optimized appointments at that first point of contact. So again, coming back to the algorithm again, we're not just giving a job to the nearest operative. We're doing a real-time global optimization, moving jobs around in the background to make sure we're really eking out the best routes. And we're not just booking into white space and then optimizing after the event, which can give a sort of a bad optimization. We're offering that real-time first point of contact via multiple channels as well. So people are coming in via the portal as well as through the customer service team. But one of the key things around those more complex works is we've got unique functionality in More IQ to.
Thank you so much. Thank you. An electric repair.
We've got unique functionality in More IQ to able to optimize and schedule those complex repairs, including the sequencing of all the visits as well. We can do that in one go with one click. So even enabling the tenant potentially at that first point of contact to agree when we're going to start the work and the days on which we're going to work that complex repair through. So we're able to visualize the capacity with all the optimization of the right operatives in the right order to be able to do that. So it makes it so much easier for the planners to visualize what they're going to be doing. It's easier for the operatives to see and be updated in terms of what their part in the process is when they're coming, whether they're following on from anybody else or whether they're doing the whole thing themselves. And of course, one of the key things is nothing is falling down the cracks in the pavement for these complex repairs. The planners aren't having to look through different diaries trying to play Tetris and fit these jobs in. We can show them what it looks like at that first point in contact, which means we can better communicate with the tenants as well in terms of when we're coming and what we're doing. And just listening, to some of the previous presentations, is obviously with all the change in damp and mold legislation coming in, we just think about how that could help with those complex damp and mold repairs, and how quickly we should be able to plan and schedule those. And as I said, key thing, keep that communication going with the tenant. That could really be a game-changing kind of process around that work moving forward. Right. So the next couple of numbers we're going to look at is around days to complete work orders. So again, just a key thing here, this is work orders across the board. So yes, this includes those one-off little repairs, but this does also include those larger pieces of work as well. So days to complete work orders are down from 27 days to 15 days, and again across all types of work orders. So some of those smaller ones are really being sort of banged out within sort of 2, 3, 4 days, depending on when people can do the appointments. But we can really start to see then the improvements in service that we're delivering. So a reduction in the lead times for appointments, which will bring in a reduction in the possible complaints due to Raven attending late, and the fact that Raven are now attending and fixing things quickly. We're going to hopefully see certainly a downturn in some of those minor repairs turning into complex repairs, potentially turning into disrepair claims. Okay, so again, all of this is having a real effect on the service and how we're able to run. And the other thing Mike wanted to point out as well was the spare capacity has been able to help in the management of the backlog, which is now at its lowest since the pandemic. Now between go live and December, obviously we were getting over a little bit of a hump around those migrated orders which we couldn't move, and also over the summer holidays there's a natural dip in the sort of the capacity we've got in terms of summer holidays that people are taking, and that can lead to capacity issues. So back in January 25, that WIP stood at 2,400, and now it's just below 1,500. So a real change in what we're doing there, and that's again how we've been able to manage and use that extra capacity in a number of different ways. So we're not just completing work quicker, we're getting through the old work quicker as well, leading to a whole number of benefits for the service. And then next up, I wanted to start just looking at some of the effects then we're seeing on the tenant, what the tenants are seeing. So this next one is around the percentage works orders completed within their SLA, essentially. And this is across all priorities. So again, the baseline when we started was at 80%, and now that's ticked up to 86%. So again, we're seeing on this, we expect a lot more movement on this over the coming months because that backlog's gone. Those migrated orders gone. So we've got over the hump of that type of work. So we're seeing a bit of a lag, I guess, in terms of these kind of statistics. And as well with the TSM measure, especially TPRO2, which was at 79%, and it's creeping up. So it's gone up just under 4%. And again, Raven do expect that to move up over the coming months, because now we're starting to get to a point where we're really offering that much better service. And then finally, in terms of sort of the measures that are coming out, it's just a little nod to complaints. So we've not got real measures on this yet, but one of the things that Mike certainly pointed out was the increase in percentage work completed by the DLO for him mitigates the risk around complaints. He sees a direct correlation between complaints and where that work is carried out. So the chances of a complaint from work that's being carried out by the DLO is significantly lower than that carried out by contractors. So obviously they're really, really keen to be putting more work through the DLO to mitigate that risk, and therefore any relevant resultant expenditure on any compensation claims on that. So really, really key for him as well, that the more work we can put through the DLO, it's just far better for the service as a whole. To the point now where the next steps on this are to continue to look at what work are they needing to put through contractors, and seeing where we can upskill members of the DLO in order to, again, push more work for the DLO. So what we're looking to do is really only use specialist contractors, and everything else be coming through Raven's own DLO. And I guess sort of in summary as well, scheduling in itself, it's not going to be a silver bullet. The technology isn't the silver bullet. There's so much more you need to put around that. It's not going to guarantee you that efficiency. We worked really, really hard with the team at Raven to re-engineer their processes. Now, some of that was due to the limitations of their previous scheduler. So people do develop bad habits because they're putting in workarounds, essentially. But also we needed to put in a lot of new processes because of the added functionality. So work really hard at it. It's not just around the technology itself, it's around the whole end-to-end process and how the team are using it. The right type of optimization that can support the complex needs of field service in the sector. We shouldn't, I think sometimes the sector puts itself down in terms of the service. We are trying to deliver some of the most complex field service processes out there. This isn't just about going out and fixing a washing machine. It's making people's homes safe, comfortable places to live, and their wider communities. So we wanted to make sure as an organisation that we are giving you the best tools to enable you to do that. We don't want to give you something that is just good enough. We want to give you the best, and we want to give you a platform where you can continually improve that as well and provide a better value service. Don't let your scheduling system just be a means to an end. It's not just about booking appointments and allocating work. It can be so much more. It can tell you so much, the potential to learn, and I can sort of bring this back a little bit to AI, the potential to learn from the inputs and outputs and the data we hold. We mentioned travel, but we can look at things. How much is it costing us to deliver the service? How much is it costing us to deliver that service in certain geographies? Do we need to start moving our workforce around because there's been a bit of a shift in the type of repairs that are coming in? How we're utilising our trades? Have we got the right number of trades in the right place? Leveraging things like, start thinking about what are the popular appointment times that people are booking. How can we learn that and potentially tailor the service to ensure that as demographics change out there, that we're continuing to be really relevant in terms of the service we're offering our tenants. I really think, treat scheduling as it's a living, breathing system, that can help to continue to evolve, the service that we're seeing and we're giving, and that's what it should be about. That's what it's about for us. And hoping that you can see that some of those improvements that we're seeing already from Raven, if you really work at it hard, if you get the right system in place, there's so much efficiency that can be built in, which we can then go and use in the correct manner. So that's it from me. So thank you. Is there any questions?
Thanks, Nick. That was excellent. Any questions from anybody? I've not seen anything come on the Q&A, which I'm surprised at, and none in the chat so far. I think I'd question it. Some really good numbers there. I just wonder how that would translate across the sector. Maybe resolve a hell of a lot of the issues we've got now with, I think you mentioned really key points to me around headcount and around the budget increase as well. I think they're real critical factors.
Yeah, I might sort of Ryan down there's a really good guy to chat with through it as well. But he's mentioned some of the issues he's had before around recruitment. I can come to that. The skill shortage. Not that this is going to completely get rid of that issue, but again, it's a little piece that can help, is what we believe. You can certainly do more with what you've got if it's done in the right manner.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I like the bit you said about the holistic approach as well, and the way you talked about complex repairs and other repairs as well. I like that.
There's a question from Meg. So there's a question from Meg there on the chat. So we do have our own mobile solution that's built in as part of the solution. One of the reasons Raven stuck with their own mobile, their current mobile, and actually we kind of recommend this in a way, is there's we're experts in scheduling. So we can pass on a lot of the details around the appointment, around the work, etc. But quite often we'll say it's much better to stick with a mobile system that could be more aligned to your works management system or your housing system, because there could be an awful lot of data around the tenant or around the job. And we start thinking about, the supply chain process that is probably better off sitting in that mobile system. So we can concentrate on the scheduling, and that mobile system can do that. Mark, in terms of the SOS, to be honest, it's whatever you want it to be. So the way that Raven do it at the initial job scheduling stage is they take an average time. So they will give 45 minutes to each repair that comes in, unless it's coming in off the back of a survey or something like that, or an inspection, and they will expect our operative to try to fix it first time within that 45 minutes. If they need more time, again, we can give them more time, but the system itself can work off SORs coming in, and we can add up SORs of the same trade, for example. We can give a default time to maybe small, medium or large repairs. So again, it's really down to understanding what process do you want to put in place. And then we've tried to make the system as flexible as possible to achieve what you want to achieve. Okay, yeah. So in terms of complex repairs, it's I don't think I've got quite enough time to sort of go into the whole thing, but we use something called parcels, which is a functionality with. So a parcel is essentially a quantity of an amount of work that we need to do. A parcel could be made up of a number of SOR codes, for example, that we would package or parcel together. So we'd end up with a plumbing parcel of 2 hours, or an electrical parcel of 8 hours, for example. You can set up those sequencing manually within MoreIQ, or what we can do as well, you can set up transformation templates and we can automate them. So, if it's, if it's painting and plastering, for example, if we see 2 jobs coming in that refer to painting and plastering, we will always put the plastering first and then sequence to the painting afterwards. But also we can put things like time delays in. So if we see that, we'll always put in, 48 hours needs to elapse between the end of the plastering job and the start of the painting job to allow for the plastering to to go off. So it's all about configuration.
Any more questions for Nick? I like it, Nick.
Right. Thank you very
Brilliant.
much.
Thanks for getting us back on time as well. Appreciate that.
No
Well
worries.
done,
That's
Nick.
all right.
Really good stuff. Thank you for that.